Here's what my lawyer did when my husband decided to leave me. About 15 years ago, my close friend Maria's world turned upside down. She had been married to Alexei for years. They had a young son together, and from the outside, it looked like a steady family. But then she discovered what everyone in our small city would soon know. Alexei was cheating, and not just with anyone. He was in law enforcement and had been carrying on an affair with a waitress named Olga, who worked at a diner near the courthouse. People went there for coffee, gossip, and apparently secret rendezvous. When Maria pieced it together, it wasn't by accident. The signs had been there. Late nights, excuses, phone calls that ended abruptly. But the confirmation was brutal. A mutual friend admitted they'd seen Alexei and Olga together, far too close to be just friends. What stung the most was learning that Olga knew full well he was married, and she simply didn't care. To her, it was almost a prize, taking someone else's husband. Soon after, Maria's worst fears became reality. Olga was pregnant. Alexei didn't deny it. In fact, he announced coldly that he was leaving his wife and child, filing for divorce, and starting a new family with Olga. Maria was devastated, but she also had a quiet strength about her. She wasn't going to scream, beg, or throw scenes. She was going to survive. The divorce proceedings began, messy as these things usually are. There were lawyers, meetings, paperwork, custody discussions. Alexei showed up smug, sitting beside his attorney as if he had already rewritten the script of his life. He had Olga waiting in the background, glowing in her pregnancy, confident that she had won. Maria sat calmly beside her own lawyer, hands folded, her face giving nothing away. And then came the moment. They were going over timelines, financial arrangements, the usual legal back and forth. Maria's lawyer, a sharp and composed woman, looked directly at Alexei and said, "So your fiancé is due in a few months, correct?" Alexei straightened up and nodded. Yes. He probably thought it made him look honest, even proud. The lawyer didn't miss a beat. "Well, since your divorce won't be finalized before then, you do realize that legally, Maria will be the stepmother of your child with Olga." The room went dead silent. You could hear papers shifting, the faint hum of the fluorescent lights. Maria told me later that she had to bite the inside of her cheek to keep from smiling, because the look on Alexei's face was priceless. His smug expression drained away, replaced by a flush so deep his ears turned scarlet. He blinked like he hadn't processed the words, then blinked again as if hoping he had misheard. Maria said he sat there, red and stiff, for so long she half worried he might actually collapse. A man who thought he had control, who thought he was walking into his shiny new life, suddenly hit with the reality that his wife, the woman he betrayed, humiliated, and discarded, would legally have a title in connection to his new family. She would be the baby's stepmother. Olga looked equally horrified, shifting uncomfortably in her chair, no longer so smug. The fantasy bubble they had built together popped in one sentence. Neither of them had considered the legal and social mess they'd created. For once, Maria didn't have to say a word. The silence, the red face, the shock in the room. That was enough. The divorce went on, of course, and eventually it was finalized. Alexei married Olga, the baby was born, and life continued. But that moment lived rent-free in Maria's memory. And honestly, in mine too. Because for once, in the middle of heartbreak and betrayal, she got to watch him feel a fraction of the humiliation he had forced on her. Maria never gloated openly, but when she told me the story, there was a sparkle in her eyes. She said, "For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt like I wasn't the one being crushed. Just for a moment he was, and that, honestly, was the sweetest revenge."